It's the best of One Mic.
All I need is one mic.
What's the name of the show?
One Mic with Big Mike.
You know, ain't nobody getting hurt, ain't nobody, there's no crime being committed.
And they say his style is too urban for the radio.
This is real life stuff that's happened to me.
Well, you know what?
You, and you.
One Mic with Big Mike.
I like to be able to do what I want to do.
A sports talk show, but no subject matter is off limits.
Meek Mill's concert is not called the Hell Yeah, I Bang Khloe Kardashian concert.
And now, your host.
Put your hands together for the one, the only
Big Mike.
All I need is one mic.
You guys, one time, give it up for Will Leitch.
Hey.
There he is.
I'm here. Thanks for having me, man. I was honored you asked.
All right, so, my man, The Plight. Make sure you guys are following Will as well on Twitter. Let me pull up your information here. At William F. Leitch. Pronounced Leach like the parasite. That's what he said to me. It's like Leach the parasite. Okay, so the Falcons coming off of a win, big win here against Seattle on Saturday. And Friday, I'm doing all my reading, getting ready for the show, and I see The Plight of the Atlanta Sports Fan by Will Leitch. I said, okay, let me reach out to this guy and get him on this show because this is hilarious to me. This is something that I'm always talking about. I've done like a couple of shows on different formats on this particular subject. So first thing I want to ask you, why this article? Why now for the article? And how is this, if it is, how is this plight here in the city of Atlanta any different than anywhere else?
Yeah, well, I moved to Athens. I lived in New York City for 13 years. I started the website Deadspin. So if you know Deadspin, I'm sorry, I apologize for that.
Wow. Love Deadspin.
Yeah. So I don't work for it anymore, but I started 10 years ago. And so I lived in New York, worked for New York Magazine, and I work for Sports on Earth now. And I moved to Athens about 3 years ago. And so I have many friends here. My wife went to the University of Georgia. She's from Columbus. So I obviously had many friends down here. But, I have to say my experience with Atlanta was relatively limited. And the one thing that everybody always told me, the minute when I got here, it's like, oh, Atlanta sports fans are the most fatalistic, certain it's all going to fall apart.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say, nationally speaking, I don't know if Atlanta fans have that reputation. I certainly did not think of them that way until I kind of got here and started talking to a bunch of the fans. I actually do a series for Sports on Earth called Leach Across America, where I go to different sports cities. I interview a bunch of fans. I went to Cleveland and San Francisco and Chicago and went to Los Angeles this year. And for me, I'm always fascinated by how the fan base. I'm more interested in fans than players a lot of the times.
Okay.
And so I love talking to fans and finding out like what their favorite moments were, what their insecurities are, what their anxieties are. And I never thought, maybe just because the weather's warm, that Atlanta, I think this goes over for University of Georgia football as well.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely becomes, you never quite buy in all the way. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to write it before the game on Saturday. Because for me, that was that if Atlanta would have lost that game on Saturday, if the Falcons lose that game, with everything set up, with a Seahawks team that frankly was not one of the great Seahawks teams. If Atlanta loses that game, then I understand the grimness and I understand the pain and I understand not being able to believe. But I feel like so I want to kind of like acknowledge that before that game, which is funny though because now that they've won, I feel like if they lose
all over
on Sunday,
again, right? It's all over again.
It's gonna be a lot worse than what would have happened in the first place.
The other voice that you're hearing is the senior writer for Sports on Earth and the man who started Deadspin. Did not know that. I read Deadspin a lot because I feel like a lot of it is so raw and uncut, and it speaks to me in that way. He's William. He's Will Leitch. I'm looking at your Twitter handle. It's so formal. At William F. Leitch. What's your take? You say you focus on the fans a lot. What is your take on the concept of the bandwagon fans? Because that's the thing that's going on here right now too. Full disclosure, I'm from Atlanta. I'm a native, but I've never ever attached myself to a team as far as fandom concerned. And part of it is because of what you wrote about, the way fans act. When I was a kid, I couldn't understand it. I used to like watching the Falcons, but when they would lose, people would be so angry and there would be so much vitriol towards the team. I was like, I don't feel that way. I like the team. And also my dad wasn't a big sports person, so I didn't get that inherited anger towards the team either. It was just, me watching sports now. I kind of watch sports that way now. I just like watching the games for what they are. But what is your take on the concept of the bandwagon fan?
Well, I feel like there's two different kinds of bandwagon fans.
Okay.
One kind of bandwagon fan is the one that roots for the Cowboys and Alabama and the Yankees and, those guys. All of a sudden really into the Golden State Warriors all of a sudden in the last couple of years. So there's that kind of bandwagon fan. I'm not a big fan of those. I don't think anybody's a fan of those kind of bandwagon fans. However, I do think one nice thing that I've lived in a lot of different cities. I've kind of settled in Athens and settled here in Georgia. And one things I do kind of love is, I love turning on the television on Saturday morning, and there wasn't a station here in the Georgia area that was not talking about the Falcons, and everyone was into the Falcons. And at my kids' school, everyone was wearing Falcon stuff, and they had a little Falcons Pump You Up rally. And yeah, were all of those people watching every single game this year? Were all of these people really into the team when they were struggling a couple of years ago? Do they remember the pain of the Petrino era and that sort of thing? Probably not. They probably have just kind of come in a little bit because the team is successful. So for me, I understand like a diehard fan being a little wary of those people. But one of the things I like about the success of a sports team and what it does to a town, it becomes something that everybody can be involved in together. We obviously, I don't need to tell anybody listening, it's a divisive world out there. And to find things, one of the things I love about sports is it is perhaps artificially, but it is something that can connect us. I went to the University of Illinois. If I see someone in Illinois in a Illini hat, I may disagree with him on every single thing in the world. We might not be friends in real life. We may see the world in entirely different ways. We might not even like each other. But for those 2 hours that are watching that game, we're best friends.
Right.
And for me, that is something that I love, and I think is very specific to sports fandom. It's hard to find another thing in the world like that. So yeah, there's a lot of bandwagon fans out there that are suddenly, I love the Falcons. I love Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and some of the other players.
But the fan base needs that, don't they?
Yeah.
A fan base needs those people to
of course,
fill things out a little bit, don't they?
Yeah, and I also think that it helps get away from this idea. Like when people get excited about something, it helps chip away of that idea of fatalism and chip away in the idea of like, I'm a cynic and I know my team's going to break my heart. It's hard to be really cynical when there's like a 10-year-old kid being like, yeah, I love my Falcons.
Right.
And one of the jokes I always say is that, think of the things in the world that made you just like spontaneously jump and scream in joy. Like there's nothing that does that but sports. And maybe, I don't know, like maybe if you're goosed accidentally or something, but generally like for me, that is for me one of the great things about sports. So I think when you have fresh blood, like listen, when you watch a team, there are people I know. I have fans that were Golden State Warriors that watched that team during the regular season where they won more games than anyone did in the history of the NBA, and they still complained about that team.
That's
when
ridiculous.
you watch the team every day, you'll complain. To me, I think it's good to have those kind of fans for something like this, for such a huge game on Sunday and such a big moment for everyone to all get excited about.
I'll tell you like this. Growing up here, I've learned to hate fans and fandom and everything that comes with it. I've learned to loathe it. What do you think about the celebration? Because I have a concept when it comes to premature celebration. I hate in baseball, you clinched the wild card game and now you popping champagne. On Saturday, the Falcons won. Arthur Blank, it looked like a Super Bowl winning locker room. Not a team that had another game to play. And I think for the fandom, and I'm going to try my best to speak for the fan base, that attitude I think is pervasive, where everything that you think you accomplish is at such a high, it makes the things that you fail at such a low. Because the other team it was like business as usual. Let's move on to the next game. They up in there. Arthur Blank is dancing and they having a party. When in all actuality, the good teams understand that the goal is 2 games away. Whereas then you have the Falcons, and maybe again I'm jaded. Maybe I'm a jaded guy from Atlanta, but it seemed as though they were acting as though some sort of finish line was crossed. Did you get that impression?
I see what you mean, and I definitely understand that, particularly when the goal is supposed to be a championship, particularly when it comes to Atlanta. Like they've had teams, they made the NFC Championship game just 5 years ago, and that was a huge disappointment in a game that, frankly, I think they probably should have won that game. So the idea of just reaching that level and getting really excited about it, I do understand how that could feel a little premature. Along those same lines, though, I guarantee you the Falcons fans enjoyed their win so much more than, say, the Patriots fans did.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for me, the Patriots fans, this is the problem. In baseball, my dirty secret, this usually gets me yelled at, I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan. And
Cheater.
Cheater, please. Okay, then we're not going to go down that road.
We won't. We won't.
But I'll say that one of the things, it's undeniable that on one hand, winning one championship just once makes you want to win more.
Mm-hmm.
There's an old George Carlin line where they asked him what cocaine made you feel like, and he said it makes you feel like doing more cocaine. And I feel like championships are kind of like that. If you win a championship, you want another one. But that kind of euphoria, if you had told a Patriots fan at the beginning of the season, hey, you're going to make the AFC Championship game, they're going to say, yeah,
you're right.
We better make the AFC Championship game. But if you told a Falcons fan, at the beginning of the year, you're going to host the NFC Championship game in the last Falcons game ever at the Georgia Dome.
Absolutely.
It would be amazing, and you'd be right to be that excited. So I think it's about that kind of balance. Sure, you want the players to be focused on the ultimate goal, but if you only allow yourself joy when your team wins a championship, sports is going to be a very frustrating place for you.
Indeed. I guess my thing is just the amount. Like temper it, because inevitably there's only going to be one team that doesn't get that Jordan crying meme at the end of the season. Like I think that's what things have been reduced to. We don't necessarily want to win the championship. We just don't want to lose it so that we get the crying meme on us for the next year or so. The other voice that you're hearing is senior writer for Sports on Earth. His name is Will Leitch. Follow him on Twitter and Instagram or I don't know if you have an Instagram, Will?
Yeah, it's William F. Leitch as well, yes.
Okay, William F. Leitch.
Yeah, it's mostly just pictures of my kids, but they're usually at the Georgia basketball game. So
Good dad there. Should these fans make long-term plans for this team? And this is what I'm asking you. I was speaking to their beat writer last Wednesday, and he dropped something on me that he feels as though this team is in the beginning of what could be a 5-year window of the opportunity to continue to compete for championships. I saw it totally differently. I felt like Kyle Shanahan's going to leave, and this team is going to have to start over. You've been very lucky with your quarterback staying healthy. This dude hadn't missed many games, if any, due to injury. Julio Jones is, he's such an animalistic player that he tends to get nicked up season in and season out, and he's not getting any younger. So I felt like it was kind of a do or die situation this year. He told me that he doesn't think Kyle's leaving, one, and he thinks this team is set up to make a little bit of a run. So I'm asking you, someone who pays attention to fans and their fandom, should the fans here in Atlanta fall in love with this type of success from this team?
Well, on one hand, you should enjoy the moment when it's happening, and don't the last thing on any Falcons fan's mind this week should be what happens the rest of in 2017 after the Super Bowl moving forward. Like, you're one game away from the Super Bowl. For me, the guy to get excited about is Dan Quinn. Like, he is universally respected. I do a show for Sports Illustrated called Pro Football Now with Nate Burleson, remember the former NFL wide receiver, and some other people from Sports Illustrated. Awesome guy. And the way that he talks, he's obviously plugged into the league. He's on Good Morning Football and NFL Network. The way that he talks about Dan Quinn, like, he's a guy whose players just, like, the Falcons hit a home run with that hire. And so as long as he's in charge, you feel good with that guy in charge. Shanahan, 49ers look like they want him. I think that if I were a Falcons fan that didn't want to lose him, I would have wished that McDaniels would have taken that job, because I think Shanahan was probably next on that list. So yeah, anytime, any University of Georgia fan will tell you the fears of when you lose an offensive coordinator, what that's going to do to your team. That said, this is the NFL. Again, look at the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals coming into the season were considered, favorites, if not the favorite, one of the top favorites. Mm-hmm. And Bruce Arians, his players love him. They just came off that Amazon TV show where everyone was convinced that the Cardinals were just going to coast through this year, and they fell apart. They actually still had a good team, but they lost games in weird ways, in kind of the sloppy ways that, frankly, mediocre teams lose games. So you never know. That team looked stamped for at least the NFC Championship game this year, as did a lot of people thought the Panthers. Yep. So the idea of what's going to happen next, I feel like it's the NFL. It's really just the Patriots are the ones that you can count on being here every year, and that's because they have Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And speaking of the cheaters that you mentioned earlier, pointing in that direction rather than us in the Midwest. But I will say that For me, these opportunities come along so rarely that all you can hope is to have smart people in charge, have the quarterback, and hope all the bricks fall your way. And this looks like one of those years where it's kind of happening for the Falcons.
There you go, Falcons fans. You're doomed. You just heard it from Will Leitch. You're absolutely doomed after this year if you don't get it done.
That's not exact. Yes.
I actually, Terrence Mathis said that to me. But not that. I'm being facetious, but he didn't say that to me. But I asked him about that 98 team on Friday, and I wasn't expecting to answer. I got to ask the question, but I said, when you guys lost the game, was it a feeling of okay, we know how it's done, we know what the work is to put in to get here? Did you automatically feel like we'll be back next year? He was like, nope. We felt like we blew the opportunity altogether. I was like, wow, I really didn't expect that. Tell me about this Ice Bowl thing that I saw you talking about, the Ice Bowl, because I think you're on the same page that I'm on. I think every team should have a dome. If I'm going to watch the best players, the best athletes in the world play, I want them to play in optimal conditions at all times. That's why I'm so glad Aaron Rodgers has to come here and play in this dome. The best quarterback in the league has no wind, no snow, no ice, no cold, anything. You get to see the best do it at the top level. Is that kind of where you're going with this Ice Bowl thing? Or tell everybody what the Ice Bowl thing is first, because I'm kind of just alluding to it.
Yeah, I did a video for Sports Illustrated, kind of ranting about the Ice Bowl. In that, I think I'm kind of from like the Generation X era, so I'm very suspicious of baby boomers that try to tell me how everything was great when they were 15 and they were all drinking Ovaltine and watching Mickey Mantle lift bales of hay or something. I don't know. They always seem to be saying things like that. But so I am very suspicious of that. And so the Ice Bowl is always this notion of this is the way real men played football.
Garbage.
And how real men and for me, football is. I don't care if people are playing football in the most perfect weather conditions imaginable. That is a brutal, tough game. Those are real men. Whatever your classification of real men are, if it doesn't include people playing football at that high a level, I don't know what it is.
Absolutely.
I think that, and so for me, what I want to see as an observer, someone that loves football and as a fan, is I want to see these great athletes who are capable of things that I cannot even fathom myself. I mean, I get nervous walking downstairs. I mean, so I look at these guys and what they're capable to do on a regular basis. And I don't want that happening in 10 below. I don't want them frozen and have to play. Like, it's the worst when you're like, remember that Seattle Minnesota game last year where it was insanely cold in the playoffs.
That's ridiculous.
And it was a miserable game to watch. It barely resembled football. It really looked like 22 ice blocks running into one another, and occasionally an ice box would fall over. And that's not fun. Like, that's not football for me. And I think I don't like this idea that football is, like, for me, football, one of the good things about football is it is obviously a physical endeavor, but it's also a mind game. Like, it's strategy wise, kind of what you can push yourself as a player to, what you learn about yourself playing the game. For me, that is an exciting thing. The idea that you need to just put them just to show how tough they are, to put them in this. I'm so excited to see, like, Aaron Rodgers and Ryan are like two of the best quarterbacks.
That's going to be awesome.
It's going to be incredible. I can't wait to watch that game. And to me, if someone would want to say, Aaron Rodgers can do that, but can he throw the ball when it is 50 pounds full of ice? Like, I don't want to see that.
I'm good.
I want to see Aaron Rodgers throw it on the field, and I think most fans want to see that too.
Absolutely. Last thing I got for you, and he is a senior writer for Sports on Earth, the guy who created Deadspin, for you Deadspin fans out there. He's Will Leitch. Follow him on social media at William F as in FU Leitch, Leitch. Let's switch gears real quick to another sport, basketball. You reviewed George Karl's book, and that made a little bit of hay about, first time around, about the fatherless guy, the guys who grew up without fathers and how that affected them as people. And here just recently, last week, I read something where he kind of intimated that there was a little bit of a PED issue with the National Basketball Association. And of course, Adam Silver came out quickly and was like, no, our testing is grade A, number one. I'll ask, because I'm skeptical of everything when it comes to sports. I don't care. Like, I don't care if Peyton Manning took growth hormones. I don't care. Guess what that means? I get to see Peyton Manning play quarterback more. I don't care. That's his body. But for you, a guy who has done this for some time now, if I were to say to you that the NBA did have an issue, minor or major, with performance enhancers, what would your response be to me?
Yeah, my viewpoint, frankly, is very similar to yours. The idea that in 30 years, athletes are going to and doctors are going to look back at our time today the same way that we look at the drugs that Mark McGuire and Barry Bonds and those guys allegedly took 20 years ago, which basically were like horse pills. Like now, testing is never going to catch up to the drugs that people are using. Ever. And so for me, the idea that first off, my guess is there's probably are players in the NBA that are using PEDs. The PEDs being a very large catch-all term. That I think we in our minds we're still stuck with the idea of
steroids and getting big. But guys need recovery now. They're playing 82 games and all the pounding. We're talking about recovery, not necessarily turning into Barry Bonds. You got like a size 19 shoe when you were 11 and a size 18 hat when it was a 7 type situation anymore.
Yeah, it's strange and it's weird. It's a very uniquely American thing about sports, and it's really about everything. Though we can not to get into the presidential election. I don't know if this is exactly the case anymore. But we're always kind of obsessed with fair play. We're always obsessed with the idea of this has to be on a level playing field, whatever that possibly means. There's nothing about the world that is completely equal. Yeah, like that's not the case at all. And so the idea. It's funny. One of the things they talked about in baseball a couple of years ago was when the issue that's kind of slowed down the players and kind of hurt the quality of play was not some of their PED testing. It was that they actually banned amphetamines. They actually banned like uppers because it wasn't because like players were like, like kids studying for a test, I got to go tweak or something. It's just that it's a grind. Like all of these sports are grinds, and we see them on television, and we watch our game for 2.5 hours, and then we go to bed, or then we go have another beer, or we do whatever. We can't really appreciate what kind of the wear and tear all of these sports take on these players. So certainly, I understand. I think the science on these things are going to get better and better, and the idea that there were, I feel like sometimes there's some of these old. Syringes and steroid ideas are used to are kind of straw men, like boogeymen tossed out to kind of to scare people. And really, I agree with you. If you listen, would I prefer that no athletes did PEDs? Yeah, I guess so. I would prefer that, but I also don't think that sports is a magical candy land where when there's this much money and this much competition. Right. Imagine at any of our jobs or anyone listening at their jobs, if at every single second of your job for the rest of your life, someone is right behind you desperately trying to take your job, and every day you do your job, you're going to get a little bit worse because you're getting older. The idea that we in that similar circumstances would not make a lot of decisions that they do, I think is unrealistic and unfair.
Yeah, absolutely. I say it all the time. Like if someone told me, take this pill, Mike, and you'll get 5 million listeners, and you'll be syndicated across the world, everywhere. I wouldn't even ask what it is, and I'd probably have it in my mouth before you ended the sentence. As a matter of fact, yeah, it's like that's what it's all about. You're trying to get to the top, to the echelon of your particular profession or whatever you're doing, and if you can get a leg up, why not? Anyway, Will, this was awesome. You're an awesome dude, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we're gonna have to do this again.
Man. Absolutely. Listen, I'm in, and listen, I live in Athens, so I'm around there all the time. I'm actually
for
NBA people. If you watch the NBA TV, if you watch NBA TV, I'm good friends with the starters, Skeets, and all those guys on that show. So I'm in Atlanta all the time. So by all means, I'd love to come on anytime, and we'll always catch a game or something. I will go to any sporting event. Are you going to the game Sunday?
I'm not. As a matter of fact, I was just on Facebook before the show started, and somebody was like, damn, who the hell is going to pay all that money for them damn tickets?
It's crazy. It's crazy. It is crazy. I actually looked. I was kind of curious because it was too late to apply for a press pass, and I don't really like to sit in the press box anyway. So I just kind of looked up and let's see what. Oh, nope, I'll be watching that at home.
Yeah,
I'll be watching that at home quite comfortably.
Man.
And one of the great things about football is, honestly, sometimes it's a little bit more fun to watch at home anyway.
This is true. And that's the problem that the NFL is kind of finding. But you know what? Before I let you go, because I meant to ask you this, but now since you mentioned it, there's a question I've had since I've been a little kid here in this city of Atlanta. I do not understand the immense love affair with the University of Georgia. Like you even mentioned it. When I was in 8th grade, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets won a national championship. It rarely gets mentioned. Only the Herschel Walker teams down in Athens. Can you give me, in the next, I don't know, minute to 90 seconds or less, an answer to that lifelong question I've had? Because I ask people who love the school but have never set foot on the campus, will never have a chance of being admitted to the school, by the way, but they love the school. What is that about? It feels so cultish to me.
Yeah, well, I think anytime there's a college sports thing, there's a cultish aspect to it. And it's definitely not involving just having gone to school there. You know, I grew up in a small town by the University of Illinois. My father did not go to Illinois, and I was the first kid to go to college out of my family. But we loved Illinois basketball because it just becomes part of the culture. You know, it becomes part of people in Atlanta can be into Georgia, people from South Georgia can be into Georgia,
everywhere.
People from South Carolina. And, I think part of that is, I think that Georgia has the history obviously has a factor in it too. But also, I think to compare it to Georgia Tech, and again, to be fair, I've only been here for 3 years, so I can claim no expert status on this. But one of the things that's always kind of funny to me is I've asked similar questions. Like when you think of recruiting, like it seems like Georgia Tech would have quite a recruiting base that they'd be able to work from, and Georgia all kind of gets it. But I do think that there is something to, like Sanford Stadium. Have you been to Sanford Stadium?
I have.
Like it is. I mean, it is. I always joke when I first moved here. I'd never even been to Athens until we looked at houses here, and I moved here. I was like, wow, the stadium is not just metaphorically at the center of everything here. It's literally right in the middle. They built the campus around the football stadium, and I think there is something that the SEC is going to have, a team in the SEC is going to have that team in the ACC just isn't. And I think that, and for me, I agree, man. Georgia Tech I went to the Georgia Tech basketball game this year at McCamish, and they paraded that football team that had beat Georgia around as if they had just won World War II. And so I understand. I do think there's a big brother, little brother type of thing, but it is tradition. Sometimes it's not always great tradition, to be honest, but I think that, it is something that is passed down in a way that I think Georgia Tech, while having that, maybe doesn't have it in maybe the width and breadth that Georgia does.
All right. Well, Will, thank you. And we'll definitely do it again soon, man. Appreciate the time, and have a good rest of your MLK day, my man.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me anytime.
It's the best of One Mic with Big Mike.
Oh, it's good.
Right now, as promised, one of the coldest shooters to ever lace up a pair of basketball shoes, champion, all-star, 3-point champion 3 times over. He's also an author of the book Long Shot, The Struggles and Triumphs of an NBA Freedom Fighter. My man, Craig Hodges. Make sure you guys follow him on Twitter at Craig Hodges NBA as well. I definitely 100% appreciate Craig doing this. Let me start off with just taking you down memory lane with me real quick. I grew up here in Atlanta, but while we were here in Atlanta, we had the WGN network where all the Bulls games were on. Like, you were the first dude that I never, ever thought was going to miss a shot. Like, every time you shot the basketball, straight up, every time you shot the basketball, I felt like it was going in. And I remember hearing you as a kid. I don't know if I heard this or I read this, but you talked about winning those 3-point contests. And you said something like, you look at the rim always. You never take your eye off the rim. And you always look at the ball. Like, where did that come from? And then also that little bounce, that little rhythm bounce you had before you shot the ball was so ill to me. Like, where did that style of shooting come from?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on your show, man. For me, shooting's been something that I was doing at a young age, but as I got older, it became a little more precise in what, the form of it. And when I think back about what you're focusing on when you're shooting, for me, it's one of those things where I'm always concentrating on about 6 inches above the rim. It may look like I'm looking at the rim, but I'm not. And from that standard, it's just being able to make sure that keep everything calm and composed. And you've done it so many times before that there's no reason not to be able to make every one of them. And my mindset during the contest is just take your time and try to make every shot, even if you don't get through all the balls.
Absolutely. A guy whose name really rarely ever comes up, and we'll talk about why that may be in just a second here. But when you start talking about, you start talking about the Dale Ellises of the world and the Larry Birds of the world and even the 3D Dennis Scotts of the world, like, people rarely get to the name Craig Hodges. Tell me about Craig Hodges.
Right.
Tell me about young Craig Hodges growing up in Chicago. Before everybody heard about the dashiki thing, the letter to the president.
Right.
Who was Craig Hodges, the guy coming up in Chicago before all that?
Well, I'm a baby of the civil rights movement.
Okay.
I was blessed that, my family was a strong supporter of Dr. King and understanding the need for human and civil rights. And for me, being a baby of that, I was able to see a lot of things early in life from a real lens, man. And my mom was very instrumental as secretary of the movement in our area. So caring about people wasn't anything new when I got to the league. It was a matter of basically something that had been fostered in me for a long time, and then I was able to somewhat take it from a creative base of my own individual perspective. And having been blessed to study at Long Beach State in the Black Studies Department, I was blessed to have a perspective that I could really draw upon from my ancestral heritage.
Talking right now with former NBA sharpshooter, 3-time three-point champion, Craig Hodges. Make sure you guys follow him on Twitter at Craig Hodges NBA. Now, I mentioned the trip to the White House. Let's give people the backstory for those of you who may not know.
Right.
Craig Hodges is a guy who played on those championship ball clubs with Michael Jordan in Chicago. Once they won the championship, he ended up doing the ceremonial thing, going to the White House. My man shows up clean, dashiki, you know what I mean? While he's there, handed a letter to the president's secret security people, and the letter inevitably got to the president. A letter kind of describing the things that troubled Craig that were going on as it pertained to black people in the country and that we currently live in. Now, before that, before we got to that point, who was Craig Hodges, the activist now, before that? Because I think now we've gone from where you got it from, your parents being children of the civil rights movement, to all the way to the White House. But before that, what was going on philanthropically with Craig Hodges?
Well, I think probably the biggest part of helping my foundational growth was what I had at Long Beach State and the Black Studies Department at Long Beach, as far as giving us an understanding of who we were as a people, giving us an idea of what our responsibility is as the next generation of leadership, and don't be afraid to speak truth to power. And I think that's the biggest part for me, is to realize that you have a platform to speak from. You have guys who have already showed you the plan, as far as Muhammad Ali, Kareem, Dr. King, the Malcolm. So the ancestors give you guidance. And that's all I was moving on, man, was the ancestral realization that they gave me information and knowledge, and now I get a chance to go to the most important man on the planet as far as the president in the Western world is concerned, and speak on behalf of my people, man, who I know wouldn't get a chance to speak on their own.
That's mad ill. The other dichotomy of your situation is the fact that I mentioned earlier, you were on the team. For people who don't know, you were on the team with Michael Jordan, a guy who's infamous for his lack of speaking forward, or at least the perception of his lack of speaking forward, outwardly speaking forward. Right. Were there any times, any conversations that went on between you and him in those regards while you guys were teammates?
Oh, no question, man. And that's the biggest part of it. In terms of when you're in a work environment, whether it be basketball or just any type of environment, certain conversations go on, whether it be at the coffee table, at the water cooler, or whether in the locker room. Everybody has an opinion and voices that opinion. And Michael was no different. And him being the leader of our team, he had opinions on things, but those opinions wouldn't get out in public. And those of us who would speak out, he would chime in on the conversation, but it would never go any further, especially to the public.
How did that make you feel, being a guy who was, for lack of a better term, you didn't have the notoriety that he had, or the maybe the pull that he had, as far as being a black man that had the attention of white America the way he did? How did that make you feel?
Well, and that's the beautiful thing of having been where I've been in my life, having studied what I studied, that it didn't discourage me from doing what I had to do. And I think that's the biggest part, is that we have to realize everybody's going to come to their consciousness when they do, and we can't be discouraged because they may not be at the place where we would like them to be, or even maybe where we are at a given point in time, but just try to plant the seeds and hope that at some point in time the realization will come that, hey, man, I have a lot of power that I can wield and I can help a lot of people with.
Talking right now with former NBA, two-time NBA champion, 10-year veteran in the NBA, sharpshooter extraordinaire, Craig Hodges right now on the One Mic with Big Mike show. The reason that I wanted to have you on, the reason I so fervently went after getting you on, because while I was doing my research for the show, I ran into this article, and I want to read it to you. Adam Silver, the new commissioner, the latest commissioner of the NBA, he says, quote, "To me, if a player were to choose not to go to the White House, whether they were choosing not to go to the current White House or the future White House, which is now Donald Trump's White House, my response would be that's a lost opportunity, because that's an opportunity for most citizens who have a political point of view would kill for. The opportunity to directly tell the president of the United States how they feel about an issue. Now, if the president were to say, I have no interest in what members of the NBA think about an issue, that might surprise me, and I might have a different response." So what he's saying is something totally different from your man, David Stern. Now, the part of the story that I didn't tell is after this thing happened at the White House with Craig, he essentially got blackballed from the NBA. The league's leading three-point shooter by percentage couldn't get a job in the NBA. And now, fast forward 25 years, Craig, the new commissioner is saying, yeah, you should go. You should voice your opinions. When you hear that, how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel over time that things have seemingly changed that much?
Well, it's hopefully I feel like maybe Adam was watching me and he couldn't say anything because he was a deputy type cat at that point in time, but he felt the righteousness in what was going on. So maybe he's realizing it like that. And just today I heard Martellus Bennett said he's not going to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's interesting, man. You know, you just have to utilize it, and then you have to pick your battles and be prepared to fight them the way that you feel like you have to or what you're capable of doing to get a victory.
Speaking of Martellus Bennett, the new athletes, the new athletes and their version, I guess I should say, of activism. I've been critical of some guys on my show where I feel like guys stay in that safe space. Even when you're man, even when Michael Jordan finally broke his silence, he still rode the fence. He was like, I'm going to give $1 million to the black folks, and I'm going to give you the $1 million to the police. You know what I'm saying? And I think now the climate is of such where people get praised for being courageous, for doing the obvious. Like, I don't think there's anything courageous about 4 black dudes on the stage at an awards show saying, please don't kill black people, police. You know what I mean? Like, that's not courageous. That's just common sense. Like, what idiot would say that's wrong?
Yeah, so for me and my son talk about, you know, you have the safety net of salary and social media today where that safety net wasn't available.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, some of it is, you know, where we at today, man. And when I look at, you know, the visibility part of it, we need all hands on deck right now. We don't really need I'm an invisible sponsor. I'm not going to tell people what I'm doing. I do what I do behind the curtain or whatever. We need to see it, man. It needs to be visible, proactive movement that everybody pulls their weight. Everybody knows what lane we're rolling in. And I do my role, you do your role, MJ does his, Horace does his, and then we got a blanket, man. We have a blanket of not only protection just in case somebody wants to, you know, pull your salary from under you, but you also have a support base of like-minded people.
What'd you think about Colin Kaepernick? Like, as soon as that happened, I got Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf on the phone, and we talked, and I think I sent you the interview. So me and him spoke about that, the similarities and the differences and whatnot. But what did you think? Your initial impression on when you heard this young backup quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers decided he wasn't going to stand for the pledge, and the reasons why, which I think is really more important because it's become convoluted over the months. But the reasons why he wasn't standing, what was your initial impression of that?
And like I said, my main thing was I supported him from the standpoint of just from a spiritual end, to know that, you know, to be in that space and time, to be at the top of your career, to be at that point in your life where, you know, just from age, and you feel almost invincible, 29, 30 years old. Mm-hmm. So I feel good. I feel good that he felt the need to stand up, and he stood up articulately. It's not everything that he spoke about. He was able to base on stuff that he studied. He researched it. It wasn't like he was coming off in an article that he read about, but he's done his own research, man. And I think that's the beautiful part and the dichotomy of what this nation stands for. It tells us one thing to go to school and study, but now when you go to school and study things that you want to study and you're able to articulate those positions from the intellectual community is not palatable, man. And I think that's the thing that we have to continue to strive for and be able to stand on with those resources that we garner, that people can speak up and teach the way we need to teach in order that we can become re-educated, man.
That's real. Do you stand for the pledge or for the anthem or whatever?
Yeah, I do, man. It's not that, and the thing is just being respectful. It's being respectful. It's not a matter that I stand for what you stand for, but I respect what you are. Gotcha. And I respect the fact that, you know, you've done what you've done, you know, and even to the point where we got a right to stand, man. We bled and died for the flag, man.
Right.
So we're even more patriotic because we built the country. So it's ours.
The other voice that you're hearing on the One Mic with Big Mike show right now is Craig Hodges, former NBA player, 10-year veteran in the NBA, sharpshooter, 3-time three-point contest shooter. At Craig Hodges NBA on Twitter. You led me to something else I wanted to talk to you about. This notion, when you start talking about, you know, people wanting you to use the education but then get mad at how you use it. I feel that same way when it comes to athletes using their voice. Like, people are trying to, like, disguise their undertones of racism in, well, this is sports. Politics don't belong here. Well, or social issues don't belong here. Well, if that's the case, athletes shouldn't be able to speak out about domestic violence. They shouldn't be able to speak out about animal abuse. They shouldn't be able to speak out about hungry kids. But no one says anything about those things. But as soon as you say, hey, how about the police stop killing black kids for no reason in the streets? Then it's like, we don't want to hear that.
Exactly.
Why is that, Craig?
Exactly.
Where's the attitude come from in sports?
I think that, you know, and that's when we talk about the tentacles and the mechanisms of white supremacy racism. There you have it. You know, you have the idea that, you know, what we talk about isn't important and that it doesn't really matter to the larger piece. But I think that just that when we take our economics and look at where they stand in the world, and we'll see how important the role is that we can play, even if it's nothing but drawing our economic side of this thing and starting from scratch. So, you know, it's our time, man. It's our time on a lot of levels. And I'm just thankful to God that I'm able to here to be a part of the solution.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because, like, that's something that I need help with. I talk about it on my show quite frequently. I mean, I do a sports show, but I'm not limited to sport because this is my thing, and I talk about whatever's going on. And I have a problem, especially with what's going on now with the orange beast that's in the White House right now. The fact that reconciling the numbers game, the fact that as a black man, I'm only 13% of this thing. And of that 13%, they locking me away at every turn for everything. So then you got a percentage of that 13 that's locked in the penitentiary and can't vote. Then you got another part of that 13 that's just not old enough to vote yet. With numbers that small, I need help reconciling a way to make a difference and help change, because I don't see that light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. And that's the biggest part, man, is that it's so the proportions are such that it's definitely to a point at some point that, you know, when we look at just numerically the things that are going on, incarceration rates,
right,
recidivism rates, it's just one of those things where we have to understand the economics of it, that it's free labor, man, and the free labor involved is black and brown people, man, and that's why I'm coaching now at my old high school, getting these young brothers to realize that being a student athlete can alleviate some of the, the potential threats in your life, but you got to make sure that you maximize your opportunity and find your passion early and work as hard as you can, man. It's just a matter of work habits, and work ethic is what we got to get our young men to realize, that we have a part to play in this thing, and your life absolutely matters. But if you're not taking yourself serious, nobody else will.
You talk about being back at your old high school. Like, Chicago's been in the news lately. A lot for bad, you know, the murder rate and all that stuff. I was looking at something the other day that was very alarming. I think it was 60 Minutes. There's another issue with the police in Chicago, whereas they've pretty much decided they weren't going to do their jobs anymore. And then the numbers that have come out say the number of stops by the police have gone so far down, and in concert, the numbers of violent crimes and murders have gone so far up. And it almost seems as though, to me, that the people who are in charge of caring have stopped caring about the people in our neighborhoods.
Yeah, and that's why I say, man, at this point in our history, man, it's time for us to love ourselves, take care of ourselves, and see after ourselves. And I think I can't ask anybody else. I can't ask Rahm Emanuel, the mayor of Chicago, to handle and help the black community. I got to take it on myself, man. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing here, and hopefully we can go ahead and unify ourselves in the city, because at 785 murders going into the new year, ridiculous, man. And it's a lot of money to be made in the death of black people for other people. So we got to cut down the numbers that they're making on our murders, man.
I said, dang, that's so crazy, because I talk about that all the time, man. It's like when people, these white folks want to run around and talk about, what's all this Black Lives Matter? Like, I've been knew my life mattered to you, but it matters to your pockets. How much you can lock me up, how much you can kill me.
Bottom line.
Yeah, no doubt.
Bottom line.
Got a couple things left for you, man. I'm talking to Craig Hodges. I definitely appreciate your time, man. Make sure you guys are following Craig at Craig Hodges NBA. Let's do some word association. When I say David Stern, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
A coward.
Okay.
Coward for not standing on it. Coward on that principle. When you see what Donald Sterling was able to get away with, man, for years at a time, man. And then you see that what Danny Ferry was able to say, then you know that you were able to just take money, $30 to $40 million of whatever you were being paid, and continue a policy of racism. And I don't agree with that. I think that's cowardly. And I think it's one of those things that puts everybody in a position in a bad light.
Dude, just think about that. And this is what I was talking to Mahmoud about. Like, how crazy was it? Like, living in 2017, thinking about a time where a dude speaks out, uses his American rights, and gets suspended from his job. You know what I mean? Like, how wild of a concept is that?
And like I said, I tell people all the time, what I went through was something, and it was cold. But what they did to my brother Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, I was the best shooter in the game, but I think at that point he was the best player putting the ball in the basket in the game.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that the game is basketball, and you don't allow this man to do what he's capable of doing and to reach his God-given potential and his passion, that's crazy, man. And I think, once again, David Stern.
Yeah, man.
And his policy.
Jerry Reinsdorf / Jerry Krause. When I say those names, what comes to mind?
Power brokers.
Okay.
And I'm going to say power brokers from the standpoint of being able to realize what they had in Michael. Reinsdorf understood what he had in Michael, and the ability for Michael to be able to manifest a whole lot of money for the Chicago Bulls, and then at the same time, Jerry Krause was able to manipulate the system and bring in guys that understood how to get things done on that level, man. So, they were power brokers, man. And in the city of Chicago, they were really power brokers.
You still got a relationship with Jordan?
I haven't talked to MJ probably in about 3 or 4 years, man. But I'm cool with everybody, man. I ain't got, ain't no reason for us to have no beef. I ain't got no beef with nobody, man.
I can dig it.
I ain't got enough money. We ain't got enough bread to have no beef with nobody yet.
Amen. All right, look at man. I can't let you out of here without talking ball with you though, man, because I think right now the league is in a good place. I like what I'm watching basketball wise. I grew up in the days in the 90s, but I can still appreciate what I don't have to see somebody get punched in the face by somebody else to think basketball is tough. So from a shooter's aspect, who you like watching now? They shoot the basketball.
I love how Steph shoots it. Steph shoots it like I shot it. So I like how he shoots it. I like Kevin Durant. Yeah. He's a shooter. I talked to Westbrook a little bit about shooting, so I like to think that the things that we talked about helped his shooting from years ago. So it's a lot of young guys shooting the ball at a good rate and at a good, good precision shot, as opposed to you seeing a guy who shoots the ball and his ball is all over the place.
What kind of stuff did you talk to Russ about his shot? Because that dude is getting crazy numbers this year, my man.
Yeah, I told him one of the things that I talked to him about was, shooting his ball out of a 2-foot jump stop is going to give you more consistency. So when you see him coming to them elbows, and he's pulling up out of a 2-foot jump stop, I like to think that's something that he and I discussed, But if not, I'd still love seeing it happen that way because that's the most consistent way to shoot the basketball.
Absolutely. That's the craziest thing about Steph, man, because he got those crazy handles, but he always find a way to get himself back on like perfect balance for that quick release jump shot. And I don't think people realize that they see the handles and they see the shot, but the way he gets back to it, and it's so unblockable, a three-pointer.
Right, and that's the key it's a transition game. So your transition from your dribble to your shot is a transitional part of the game also. So the smoother you can make it, the better you become, and he's top at it right now.
Absolutely. Last thing I got for you, because you mentioned...
Can't forget Kyrie Irving. Can't forget Kyrie.
Definitely. Kyrie's he's sweet at the basket, too.
Yeah.
He's one of the best bad shot makers in the league. And I say that respectfully.
Exactly.
Last thing I got for you, you talked about doing work at your old high school. Now, what other kind of things you up to now? Right. Because now it seems to be the age of people getting back to marching and people getting back to voicing their stances on things. What's a guy like Craig Hodges been up to in any area?
Well, like I said, just finished my book, and that was one of the biggest things in my life, man, as far as challenges and looking forward to doing something. And now I have a platform to speak from and being able to use my book as a way to get young people to realize that, you can do something that not all the time you see as something that may happen in your life, but you never know what time holds for you and what God has in store for you.
Where can people get the book, Craig?
You can get it at Amazon, as well as you can get Haymarket. Book Crew is the publisher for it. But I'll be coming down there at some time to sign some books, hopefully. Real
deal. Long shot, the struggles and triumphs of an NBA freedom fighter. My man, Craig Hodges. This is probably one of the top, you and Mahmoud and Kenny Anderson. I'm going to say my 3 best interviews I've done on this show in the year plus that I've done this, man. Not good because of me, good because of the content that you're bringing, my man. And I appreciate it. Talk to you down the road, my man. You got it.
All right. Peace.
It's the best of One Mic with Big Mike.
You ain't gonna believe this shit. Check this out.
Welcome to the show right now. Two-time, like Booker T. Super Bowl champion from the New England Patriots. This guy's name is Bobby Hamilton. Yeah.
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing today?
Hey, man, I can't call it. It's only one of me. I know the name is Big Mike. I'm not that big. It's only one of me, Bobby. So
My bad, Mike. Big Mike. What's going on, Big Mike? My bad.
It's all good, brother. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing fine, man. Just getting ready to come down there in Houston, get ready for the Super Bowl.
No doubt, man. By the way, happy anniversary to you. Like, today is the day, right? The Adam Vinatieri kick was today, all those years ago, man. So shout out to you, man. Shout out to your teammates. Happy anniversary to you. How y'all celebrating that thing tonight?
Man, it feels like it's going to be a great feeling, man. If you sit back and think about it, man, it feels like it was just yesterday, though, man, when Super Bowl 38. And it's just a blessing that these guys coming back down there again and try to get another W in the Super Bowl. I know it's a very exciting for all the guys on the team, coming back. I know a lot of guys talking about they come back to Houston because that Super Bowl right there was a great feeling. We played against a good team like Carolina.
Yeah. They
came in there very excited, and it was very exciting. Then now the time is going so fast right now, and you don't realize that the Super Bowl is again in Houston, Texas. And you got New England and one versus Atlanta Falcons. It's a great challenge.
Absolutely. Hey, let me ask you something, man. I was talking about this before you got on. When you play for the Patriots, I think the one thing that's guaranteed is at some point you won't play for the Patriots. Like, at some point they're gonna figure out that somebody younger than you or somebody better than you can do your job cheaper. How did things end for you as a New England Patriot? Because I know you went from the Jets. Belichick brought you when he came from the Jets. You came with him to the Patriots, but at a certain time, after a couple of years, you moved on. How did things end for you?
Well, at that time, man, you got to think about. I think I was like 35, 36 at that time.
Really, you that old?
We had just at that time, and we just got through. We won the Super Bowl against the Rams, and next thing you know, we didn't go to the Super Bowl, the playoff the next year, because injury and stuff. Then unfortunately we went back again in Super Bowl 38. Nobody never know what the future gonna hold. At the moment, I was a free agent. At the moment, my deal was up at New England. And I know that they did drop a kid named Taiwan come in. You just had Richard Seymour just been there for like 2 years and coming in. And sometimes you got to just understand the business. If you don't understand the business and see your surroundings, it's a long story. But, at the time, we just won the Super Bowl when we won the Super Bowl 38. Everything was up, so I had a chance to go in on the market, and then, I ended up signing with the Oakland Raiders. But you got to look at everything, Big Mike. You got to look at it. It's just a business.
Yeah.
You got to know when your time is up. You got to look at your surroundings. Now, I could have sit there and try to come back, but, we didn't know how they were going to hold up. They're going to go back to the Super Bowl the next year to win Super Bowl 39 and begin it. But, at the time, I just won a Super Bowl. I'm at that age of 36, and I wanted some more money, so I went out there and found a team that who want me, and it was Oakland Raiders.
Damn right. I ain't mad at that. The other voice that you're hearing is my man, Bobby Hamilton, 2-time Super Bowl champion with the Patriots. He's down there in Houston getting it up, man. A 13-year NFL vet. You were there, man, in the early Brady years. And now here we are, man, all these years later. And that dude is still busting people's ass, man. Like, when you were there, could you have ever envisioned that guy being this guy in 2017?
I remember when Belichick first came to New England. He was there for earlier the career when they went to the Super Bowl against the Green Bay.
Right.
They lost to Green Bay. And I know when he came in 2000, when they drafted Tom Brady. And I remember in the locker room, Tom Brady told Mr. Kraft that, you're going to be happy about picking me in the draft and stuff like that. But I could see Tom Brady on the football, and you could see this work after that. This guy is all about business because, I like that. When I came in the league in '94, I came in as a free agent, hard working too. And I saw how Tom Brady was the first one in the building, in the morning, the last one to leave. He just wanted to prove a point. I always want to play with a chip on his shoulder. And I knew right then that Belichick had something special right there. And a lot of boys in the locker room and around know that Tom Brady was special right then because the way he carried himself and all the odds against him to make it in the Super Bowl. I mean the player on the team and stuff. So, I know he had it in him. And now, like the situation in 2001 when Drew went down in that injury and Tom got a chance, and that's it. Yeah. History made right now.
Absolutely. The rest is history, as they say. Let's talk about your former coach. Let's talk about Bill Belichick. You mentioned him just now. I'm on my shows that I've done, this one and other shows on the radio, I've been critical of him. Not the coach that he is, but I think a lot of that stuff that he puts on, like that persona, is a little bit of a fake. Like, who is Bill Belichick that we don't get to see? Because all this stuff about, like, I don't know about snap face and face chatting. Like, dude, you know exactly what those things are and what they're called, dude. Tell us what happens. Like, pull the curtain back for us a little bit, Bobby.
But, I'm going to be honest with you. I know Belichick for, he was the head coach in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
He was the head coach in Cleveland and stuff. So I had a chance to, him to coach me when I was at the New York Jets. I know you already said that about the story. But I know what type of guy Belichick, on the field and off the field. I know what type of guy he was. And so that's why one of the reasons when I was a free agent, I came with him in New England. And the guy, man, 100%, he's all about business. Big Mike. I'm just going to tell you the truth. It's all about X's and O's. And, when he comes in there and when he walks in that building, it's all about, that favorite quote they always said, do your job. That's what it's all about. He wants you to be prepared every week to do your job. Sometimes he'll let the wall down and joke with you and have fun with you.
Give me something there. Give me something there, Bobby. Give me a time where Bill Belichick has kind of let his hair down and kind of, surprisingly made people laugh, or a story of levity with Bill Belichick. Give me a human story.
It's probably not as funny to y'all, but, Belichick is the type of coach of this here. You might hear Jermaine Wiggins. He's on the radio a lot in Boston. And he's from East Boston.
All right.
So one day we were around in the locker room, sitting around and stuff. And one day, Dwayne Wiggins, I would talk about how he was good in basketball and how he would dominate on the football field in high school. So we didn't know Belichick heard how Dwayne was talking about this stuff. But one day we was in a meeting, and all of a sudden, Belichick said, "I want y'all. I got a film I want y'all to watch, and I want y'all to judge this and tell me what y'all think about this."
Oh no!
And next thing you know, Big Mike. Next thing you know, guess who it was?
His basketball tape.
He put out a tape of Jermaine Wiggins playing basketball in high school. He said, now look at this guy. Now look how big he over these kids. He was showing how you play quarterback in the football, the biggest thing. And then, that was some of the things that he brought to the team.
Gotcha.
And, Billy, everybody talks about that. He jokes a lot. But when you come in that building this football season, Big Mike, it's all about business. And he'll tell you, it's hard to do your job. That's why they got that famous quote, do your job first. And that's what it's all about.
The other voice that you're hearing is Bobby Hamilton, former New England Patriot, two-time Super Bowl champion with the Patriots. He decided to join this ridiculous show tonight, and I definitely appreciate him for doing it. The way society is going right now, there's a lot of things going on in the world, in the country right now, and the Patriots are a part of that story as far as it relates to sports. And what I mean is, like, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Robert Kraft are personal friends of Donald Trump. Does something like that play any in the locker room with the players?
Well, Big Mike, I can't answer that because I'm not playing right now, and I'm not in the locker room. I can't. I don't know what they.
But for you, if you were in the locker room and you're a coach and you're owner,
like I said, man, it's two sides of everything.
Gotcha.
Everybody brought it up, talking about his friend. We could sit here, Tom Brady, because Donald Trump said Tom Brady his friend. Now, I got to think about it. It's 2017. Tom Brady met Donald Trump way back in the day, like when he first got in the league. So I'm not the point of fingers. We got to stop. I don't know what kind of relationship they have, but we don't blow that up. They friends because he's the president right now. We don't know what type of relationship they have. We don't know what they base that they talking about. And I don't get involved with all that. I know for a fact that when you walk in that building, it's all about doing your job, Big Mike. All your personal stuff. We don't really get in caught up. That's one thing about the Patriots. We never get caught up with people really personal life like that. Got you.
As a former Patriot, what kind of feeling, especially somebody who has two of those rings, when you hear people talking about asterisks, when you hear people talk about the Tuck rule and Spygate and Deflategate and all that kind of stuff, like what kind of feelings go through you when you hear that kind of talk about teams that you played on, that you bled for, you sweated for, you worked your ass off for, and you hear people use those type of terms to kind of deflate some of the accomplishments. How do you feel about that?
Only thing I feel about this, Big Mike, when you think about it, think about the last 17 years. I don't think no other team have done what New England Patriots have done in the last 17 years. And, everybody going to find some kind of excuse about a team, how they win. The Tuck rule, the Spygate. I was there when they came out with this Spygate. To this day, I don't even know what they talking about. I don't even know the word they talk about, about the flake football. I was at the AFC Championship game when they played Indianapolis Colts. I still don't know what they talking about because I always thought about the referee. It was raining. It was raining at that game. The referee holding the ball in his hand, so he couldn't tell the difference. Right. So, it's all these things about the Patriots. All they do is do their job and they just go out there and play, man. That's how I look at it. We just go out there and play. We got good. We're going to start from the top. Mr. Kraft, he brought a coach in that he wants to build a foundation with, and that's what they've been doing for the last 16 years. And that's all they've been doing is winning. And, if you don't like it, like you said, like that song, if you ain't got no haters, that means you're not doing nothing. You got haters, that means you're doing something good.
Well, man.
That's how I look at it.
And before the show started, I put on social media, I was like, how many people would take their team, their personal team, with a bunch of controversy, but also a bunch of rings? Yeah, everybody. See, it only matters when it's the other people's team. They only cheated when it's somebody else's team. But if it's your team that people say was spying and people say was deflating footballs, but they got all them rings, shut up. It don't matter. You know what I mean? So it's one of those fan hypocrisies. I want to talk to you about your personal story because when I was reading about you, I was like, damn, is this true? Like, how this is wild as hell. Like, when you were young, well, first of all, let's kind of give the people some background. When you were young, your dad passed when you were very young. And I wanted to ask you how that fueled you throughout your life. You mentioned being an undrafted free agent, but still pulling out a Super Bowl winning career, over a decade in the NFL. Your dad passing when you were young, like how did that affect you throughout life?
Well, let's go back then. I ain't never really talk about it. My dad tried out with the Denver Broncos, back in the day. So, At that time, my dad moved up to, my mom and my dad moved to Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad is originally from Houston, Texas, and my dad and my mom brother was best friend. They went to college together.
Gotcha.
So that's how my mom and my dad got together. So they, my dad went to Denver Broncos, tried out, got hurt. So what happened, when he went to Houston, he was about to get ready to move us down there, Big Mike, but we never got a chance. 2 weeks before Christmas, we got a phone call, somebody murdered my dad. And, it was rough at the time. It was rough at the time, man, because at the time I was a young man. I always look up to my dad. I always idolize my dad. I want to be like my dad. And I never thought, why this person took my dad from this earth, leaving my mom with 5 boys. And I tell, I go around and talk to kids. At the time, people don't think about this. My mom had 5 boys at the age of 35, 33 years old.
Wow.
And you got to think about it. That's a lot of pressure. But and that's why I would tell people, I looked up to my mom and my parents because my mom never brought another man in the house to take care of us. She did everything, As going back to my dad, and that was my biggest role model, my dad. And I always want to outline my dad and be in his role. And all through my life, coming up, and Big Mike, when I was young, I used to be terrified, man. I didn't care. I didn't care about nothing. I was all in some kind of trouble. Till my granddad and my uncle sit me down one day. And and they taught me, and they told me, hey, if your dad was still here, you think he'd be liking what you're doing right now?
Wow.
You won't be doing none of this. And so all of a sudden, my uncle went to play off with Alcorn State. That's the year, if you ever go back into history, they had like a sellout when Jerry Rice was in school. Jerry Rice versus Alcorn, over 80,000 students.
Over at Mississippi State.
Yeah, Mississippi State. Mississippi Valley State. So my uncle was the linebacker in that, for Alcorn. He sit down. He said, man, take your first grade on the football field. And Big Mike, you know how the water boy back in the day?
Yeah.
I was a water boy back then.
Just hitting everybody?
First grade out of the football. Hitting everybody. And then right there, I planted a seed right there. And, I wasn't the biggest. I wasn't the fastest. But I had a work ethic that I know that I told my mom one day I'm going to do my best to get in the NFL.
Say that.
And next day, it's paid off, Every year when I went to college, every year I moved up to a different level, Big Mike. I always hurt my knee. From elementary to high school, from high school to college, from college to pro. And I always hurt my knee, and I don't know why. I think it was the reason why God just told me to sit back and learn the game. And that's one of the gifts I had took from that. And, when I went to college, I was a linebacker, and they moved me to defense end. And all of a sudden, I ended up playing starting 2 years, and all these schools, and I didn't get a chance. Just want an opportunity to get in the league. And Seattle gave me a chance in 1994. And next thing you know, I got hurt. And then Seattle sent me to the World League. And when I came back, in 96, that's what, like a week before camp, that's when New York Jets picked me up. And then the history's told right there, Big Mike.
There it is.
And I look over all the stuff. Wasn't being with my role model like my mom and my grandfather and my uncle, and surround yourself with positive people, I wouldn't be here today talking to you. I'd probably be in jail. I did, Big Mike, and I'm not going to tell no story about that.
I know that story too well, my brother. I know the same story, my man. He's Bobby Hamilton, a 2-time world champion with the New England Patriots, joining the One Mike with Big Mike show today. Moving on from there though, because that kind of jumped something else off too. Once you didn't end up moving to Houston, you end up being estranged from a large portion of your family, your dad's side of the family. And the wild thing was that where you're at right now in Houston, you were able to reunite with your dad's side of the family, but you did it on Super Bowl during the time of the Super Bowl. Like, how, my man, how did you juggle that? Because, we hear all those stories about, as soon as you get successful, all these family members that you don't know is going to come out the woodwork. But this is different than that. They didn't just come out the woodwork. You just kind of lost touch with them. And then at the Super Bowl happened to be the time where you guys reunited. Like, give us a little walk down memory lane with that and how you were able to juggle those two things, meeting up with your family after a couple of decades and playing in the biggest ball game of your entire life.
Well, at that moment, it was a guy named Steve Nail from New York Jets, as I was the Jets. He the one called me and told me I got a surprise for you.
Word.
And I was like, what kind of surprise you have for me? And, I'm getting ready for the big game. He the one told me, man, I found your uncle. I said, your uncle, because, I was looking for him when I was with the New York Jets.
Yeah.
And at that time, he the one that told me told me about my family. He found, because we've been looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how ours work, Big Mike. He had to work the week of the Super Bowl.
Wow.
That I found my grandparents. And I never saw him since my dad died when I was 9 years old, because we lost in touch. I don't know how we lost in touch. I'm not going to get out there, but I found him that week, and it was very exciting. But I tell you one thing for that week. Billy Chick, because you wasn't going to take no cameras and no news people over there. You was going to because he didn't want to cut out that. I tell you that, Big Mike. So it was a blessing, man. You know, it was one of the things that, Houston, Texas, getting ready for the biggest game of my career,
right.
for Super Bowl 38. And then when you saw that 2 nights, your grandmother, 2-3 nights before the game.
Wow.
It brings you so much energy in your heart that you want to go out and play so hard because you found out your other side of your family. And that's the chapter that you always want to close, to find it. And it happened at the right moment at the Super Bowl. And then we end up with a victory. And, we celebrate. And that was kind of that chapter. But it was a great feeling, a great blessing. And I wouldn't change it for nothing. I'm just glad that it happened at the time because you never know what happened. Like I left the jet. The next thing you know, Steve Nails, he was a security guard, work at this New York. He the one called me up and told me about it.
Wow.
He didn't have to do that. But I know, some people are saying, he tried to distract you and da-da. Nah, he just tried to just close that chapter. He know I've been looking for him for a long time.
Right. That's good stuff. Other than reuniting with your family, like what are your most profound memories from those 2 Super Bowls? Because like most of us will never ever experience that, dude, and you did it twice. You know what I mean? So give me a taste of your most vibrant memory from those 2 games.
The first Super Bowl, you probably don't remember, second quarter coming out. I'm gonna put it like this here. This
is the Carolina one, right? This.
No, the first Super Bowl was against the St. Louis.
Okay, the Rams game.
36. I remember when we was in the locker room, and you know how they talking about who they gonna call out as a team, offense and defense, and they said the defense starter's gonna come out,
and everybody came out together.
Right then, and then right there, that moment right there, I don't care about nothing. The moment that we know we had a family, and he's the defensive line coach right now for the Atlanta Falcons. Is Brian
Cox? No doubt.
Brian Cox. And you got the Lawyer Malloy, Tom Law, William McGinnis, all them guys came and said, hey, man, we've been doing this the whole year as a team. We're going to go out as a team. We're going to do this as a team. And that's right then, start that foundation right there. And we came out, and that's one of the biggest moments right there in that Super Bowl right there. In Super Bowl 36, as we know, that's part of the foundation of the New England Patriots right now.
No doubt, man.
So that was one of the moments, I could tell another moment I had when I got my first Super Bowl sack that Kurt won in like 2 in the second quarter. And, I in practice, I was missing that same play over and over. That boot was Kurt Warner always do. I missed. Belichick was standing on me. And I know I finally got it right in the game. And that one is another moment in the Super Bowl, too. And number 38, in Super Bowl 38, when we play against Carolina, Big Mike, I'm going to tell you the truth. That stuff is so blurry right now. I can't tell you nothing about that Super Bowl. Only thing I know, when the field ball, when the kickoff, when the score was tied up, 36-36, I say 36-36. When the kicker kicked that ball out of bounds and he went out at the 40-yard line with a minute and 20-something seconds. Everybody on the bench jumped up and said, oh, no, y'all done missed something now.
Yep.
Tom Brady got the ball. That's what I remember that game, Super Bowl.
Speaking of that,
great memories right there.
Speaking of that game, and by the way, I'm talking to Bobby Hamilton, who's a 2-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. Speaking of that game, how soon after the game was over did you find out what happened with Janet Jackson? Because I missed it too. I was hosting a party here in Atlanta, and it happened, and I didn't know what happened until later. Like, how long after did you find out what happened with Janet Jackson?
Time when you know how you win and everybody doing all the celebrating. You go through it. Hey, did you hear about Janet Jackson?
Immediately.
You need to watch that immediately. That's a big thing. Man, we just won the Super Bowl. They asked us questions about Janet Jackson. But I thought the picture, though.
Oh, yeah, I did too. Later on, I saw the pictures, my man. Appreciate you joining me, man. Last thing I got for you, man, I ask all the former athletes and former NFL guys to come on the show. I always ask them, man. I always ask about your health and, how you doing, all this stuff that we're hearing coming out about former athletes and the things that you guys go through with your bodies and everything. One day I was talking to Reuben Drones from the Browns and the Broncos and the Giants, and he told me, man, that he had his biggest fear was turning 40, and he's like 39. He's like my same age. And that kind of struck a chord with me. So now every time I talk to you guys, man, I always want to ask you, man, how your health doing, man? How you feeling, in your body and your mind and all those things?
Well, right now, big thing you can all, as everybody know, I always try to take care of my body, Big Mike.
Okay.
I don't eat no meat.
Wow.
I don't eat no pork, beef, or chicken. I just eat vegetables. Every once in a while, I eat a piece of fish. That's
Hold
it,
on,
man.
how you from Mississippi and you don't eat no meat? Hold on, how does that work?
Man, I just stopped about a year and a half, man. When I started fasting for the church for 21 days, I just stayed with it, man. I started feeling good about myself. But I started going to the chiropractor. I went and got me a hot tub in my house. Got a massage chair. As a matter of fact, I just ordered me one of them beds to hang you upside down.
Okay.
Try to stretch your joints out. I ordered one of them, and just try to just I do some stuff at the school with the they talk about the concussion and stuff. I work at Coach Lynn High School football at Manager Jackson High School, and I try to keep myself active with the young kids and the young youth, with them to keep my brain fully functioning and stuff. And that's all. And just try to eat right. That's it.
My man. Hey, man, I enjoyed it, man. I hope you did too a little bit, but I did, man. I appreciate you taking the time out and joining me, man. And be safe tonight, man. Go out, have a good time, enjoy your anniversary, your Super Bowl anniversary, but, do it up a little bit down there in Houston for me, man.
All right. Thanks, Big Mike, for having me on here. Thank you very much.
You got it, brother.
It's the best of One Mic with Big Mike.
All right, now listen up. I don't want no trouble.
Y'all welcome in one-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl attendee, or played for the Falcon Super Bowl team in '98, my man, Big Bob Whitfield.
Hey, man. Thanks, Mike.
Bob, what up, man? We hadn't spoken in a while, man. I would doubt that you even remember me, man. Me and Rob doing the Sports Kings over there at CBS.
Yeah, man, that was a good time. I remember that.
Good.
So, I talked to Rob more than I talked to you. So
you know what? They made me quit the show, dog.
Line.
Yeah, they made me quit the show because I was working upstairs and it was too damn cheap to try to pay me a couple little hours so I can keep doing my show downstairs. So they made me quit. What you been up to in the time though? In the last couple of years, man?
Hey, man, all good things, man. I had some lovely kids that I got an opportunity once I retired to spend more time with. And get to be a good father to them and support them in their endeavors and get them, further along in life. So that's been a focus of me since I retired. But, I've always been a love of music and entertainment. So, I still stay close to the music industry. I still own my publishing company. I sold my big studio that everybody still uses.
You sold Patchwork?
Studios. Yeah, I sold Patchwork, but I still keep close ties on creative talent as it comes around. And then my football fix is that I'm a high school football official.
I saw that.
With the zebra stripes on.
I saw that. Big Bob running around with the kids. I'm going to ask you about that here in just a second. Make sure you guys are following Bob on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter at WhatUpBob and on Instagram at It's Bob Whitfield. How your health doing? Because every time I talk to one of you retired players, with all the stuff that's in the news, Bo Jackson last week saying that, if he had to do all over again, he wouldn't play. And if his son wanted to play, he'd smack him in the mouth. Like your son just got through playing. Last time we talked, he was playing over at Stanford, man. But how's your health doing?
Oh, I'm good. It's always a thing that you get up in age that you got to be, monitor your health.
True
and
that.
I went to the doctor finally, and the doctor said, well, we can get that blood pressure down. So that's just my goal, get my blood pressure down, lose some weight, and keep the weight off.
True that. I was talking to Terrence Mathis the other day. Terrence Mathis said he's good too, so it seems like all those 98 Falcons still doing their thing. Is the season too long, Bob? Because the games have been so bad in these playoffs. Only two of the games have been very competitive, and you look at the injury reports, and it almost seems like just survival of the fittest. Like if you can make it across the finish line, let alone run across it, guys limping around and everybody's getting shot up before the games. Is the season just too long?
No, I think that's been the football the way that I known it. So 4 preseason games and then 16 regular season games. I think that if you're going to take off any games, you should take off 2 of those preseason games so that you have, one preseason game to evaluate multiple talent, and the second preseason game, to get to evaluate the other bit of talent, because by the third game, it's the regular season, and you should have already known through 6 and 7 or 8 months of scouting and what you did last year and who you brought in new and what you think they could do. It's a big-time organization, so you can knock off 2 preseason games, but the 16 games in the regular season, it is a race to the finish line, and the strong can't survive. So you're as only good as a team as your weakest link.
Absolutely.
The Falcons have a lot of depth. You take out Julio, that offense don't shut down. They got tight ends galore, so it's almost you watch them play. The depth at running back, the guys are versatile. They all smart guys. They get in the scheme. They understand what they're supposed to do. So that one goes down, the next man steps up.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. That's what you're talking about. That's an arsenal. That's a weapon. So it's no drop-off.
What was today like for you guys, the day after? Like after you guys, because it was a little bit different because you guys had to come back from Minnesota. But the next day that you guys were in Atlanta, whether it had been the next day or the following day, what was that day like? What was the realization like for you guys in '98? Like, damn, we about to play in the damn Super Bowl, the first one in franchise history.
That was the revelry of it. Like when you start coming into the airport and the fans and they're shooting the cannons over the airplane flying back from Minnesota, and then the parade and the stuff going on, and the elation of it being the first team finally making it across the, that precipice of being to get to go.
Mm-hmm.
But some of that revelry gets ballyhooed too much because you still had to play a game because the season wasn't over. So just because you were the first to get there, it wasn't done. So I think a lot of that was a shock to the team, the organization, even the players, because a lot of players first time going. So it's like everybody was elated beyond. So it's almost like you had to have a cooler head to prevail because your head was exploding.
Right. All the emotion, all the work that you put in. And that's the one good thing I've been hearing from this team. Matt Ryan, Coach Dan Quinn saying his quote was actually, I'm paraphrasing that, you don't get a reward for going. The reward is playing well and winning. That's what you get the reward for. So we're going to take care of some business. It feels to me, being someone that's from here, it felt to me in '98 in my youth that the city was a lot happier about the team in '98. And I asked myself why. And the answer that I came up with was social media, Bob, because now fans aren't just in their pockets of other fans and happy with each other. There is kind of this attitude of, I'm not only happy for my team, but now I got to poo-poo on this other team, and I got to defend myself from the quote-unquote haters and the doubters and all this kind of stuff. These things that didn't necessarily exist in that big of a way in '98. Do you feel that same thing? Like being in the city, do you feel a different kind of, energy?
Well, I look at it, and I wouldn't say it's the social media effect of a person don't want them to claim their team because the backlash or other people just click and boo in their timeline. I think it's more the effect of fantasy football because these people are playing fantasy football. So now you might have the Falcons going against Tom Brady, but Tom Brady been winning you points all year long. So you as a Falcons fan, you like, man, I don't want to go against my team, but I've been winning all my fantasy points with Tom Brady. Which one do you choose?
Yeah, the gambling too.
You gamble with Tom Brady against your own squad.
I'm talking right now with Bob Whitfield. He played on that '98 Super Bowl team. That's why he's on the line with me. I'm glad to catch up with him, as a matter of fact. So make sure you guys are following him on social media, Twitter being What Up Bob, and on Instagram, it's Bob Whitfield.
But just remember this, because the fans now, the first has already happened. The first Falcons team to get there,
that's already taken place. So this team is the second team. So the fans can technically have an expectation like, we already gave y'all parade when y'all got there in 98. Look what y'all did.
Like buyer's remorse.
Yeah, we're like, we ain't giving the parade till y'all win that joker.
Let's talk about the two teams, though. Like, I look at this team, and it's another 2-week stretch till we get to the big game. So everybody's got to try to like space out what they're gonna say and say everything a million times before that time gets here. But I look at this team, and I don't really see anybody who I necessarily want to hear from. And I don't think that's a bad thing. But you guys had guys like Ray and you, and like Jamal and Tim Dwight, a bunch of crazy dudes. Ray and Shannon Sharp got into it a little bit at the press conference. Do you see anybody from this team making any type of noise in the next 2 weeks?
Well, I think Matt Ryan is going to be, courteous and politically
business
correct
as usual
quarterback. But I think Robert Alford, that cornerback, might be a little, because they might grill him on some of those calls that he has been getting, and then miraculously they didn't want to call as tight. So, beneficiary calls. So he's been the one that's been, most penalized for the Falcons, whatever. So he might get agitated by a reporter or whatever, going at him, grilling him. And then young linebackers, they might have to deal with other problems because of the spotlight on them, because we had so many characters on that team, from Ray Boo, with nicknames. Jesse Tuggle was the hammer. He was the focus of the thing. Then you have Jam, Jamal Anderson, the true Dirty Bird.
Wait, hold on. I heard that O.J. Santiago was the original Dirty Bird. Is that not true?
Well, because according to Jamal, O.J. only did some angry man's version of an end zone dance. He did not put no style and flair on it, not enough that he can claim being the originator. Jamal says his original Dirty Bird is 25 seconds long.
There it is. There it is. See, now we got the true story, because the story all along has been like, nah, man, it wasn't Jamal. It was O.J. Santiago. He created the Dirty Bird. But because
O.J. in the week before.
Because his was angry, it didn't rock.
Mm-hmm. It didn't rock. It didn't have the bounce.
Oh, boy. You see that?
But that's what happens. The team has to, for 2 weeks, have to quell a lot of emotion, but it's the ballyhoo. So rituals may change. Some rituals that you had, that you did things a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do it that way because schedules change. And I remember that from 98 was that we practiced a certain way all year long once we hit that winning streak, and we never altered practice. Then we get to the dang bye week before the Super Bowl, practice scheduled altered. Everybody's like, what the hell is this?
Look, so
this ain't how we operate.
Last Friday, I had Terrence Mathis on the show. He told me that Dan Reeves changed the entire game plan, like what y'all was doing all year. And this was my first time hearing this, that what y'all were doing on offense, he switched the whole thing up because of Mike Shanahan being one of his assistants and knowing everything, or he felt like he knew everything that you guys were going to do. He switched everything up. Like, what kind of craziness was that? And how did that play amongst the players, especially guys like you and guys like Jam, boisterous guys?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say he switched it all up.
Mm-hmm.
He added another variable dimension that technically we all have the big giant playbook.
Right.
First playbook that has the whole schematic in there and how you can run in and out of different formations and whoop, whoop, whoop. So what happened is he pulling deep into the playbook. So now there's a learning curve of memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you ain't heard of this play because we ain't ran it in
all
2 years.
Since camp. Oh, 2 years. Wow.
You know what I'm saying? 2 years ago or something. Or we ain't used this formation package since the Jets game in the previous season.
Wow.
New guys will have no familiarity. So you run the risk of saying not everybody's going to know how to execute this at a high level. So there's one play in particular. There's one play, and amongst, all the plays, but there's one play in particular that I knew the level of execution. This is actually in the game, where Tim Dwight had no clue who he was supposed to block because he's never ran this from this formation probably in the game situation.
My goodness.
And I was hoping that he knew who he was going to block. And as the play unfolded, I can see he had a crackback block. And I saw in his motion, and I was like, he's coming too fast to crack back. He's not going to get this block. His motion is coming in because he didn't know he had to crack that guy. It disrupted the whole play. It was a 3rd-and-1 play. We don't get the first down.
What does that do for the confidence of an offense? Like going into a game, if you're not like the biggest game of your careers, going into the game and you're not 100% confident that the guy next to you or the guy lined up outside or the guy in the backfield knows exactly what's to be done on every play, do you have a little bit of trepidation? Like, oh my God, like not able to,
No,
I guess.
I get what you're saying, but the whole idea is you still going to have to overcome that because what you going to bet on? Because even if the thought comes in your head, you're going to bet on, I hope he hit that mug, though.
Right.
You know, it looked like he's coming a little fast. I hope he know, he need to chop his feet right before the snap.
Wow.
He coming hot. He coming in hot. I just still hope he know because it looked like he can't slow down. You know what I'm saying? So until that split second they hike that ball, you might still be like, I still hope that he gets it right.
That's wild.
And that's what, like, I tell, like, the Falcons, like the current Falcons team, me and Matthews, Matthews, he gets offsides penalties and people get all upset and grumpy, like Bob used to get offsides penalties. But then what happened is if you can recover from that,
exactly, bouncing back.
like, okay, we bouncing back. So the whole idea is, like, you're not supposed to get it wrong and then you go in the tank, like, oh, damn it, ain't nothing going to get right.
Yeah.
And I just think that was one of the plays where we got it wrong, and it just steamrolled downhill and got worse from there.
Man. The other voices you're hearing is former Falcon. He played on that 98 Super Bowl team as you hear us talking about it. He's also the founder of Patchwork Studios here in Atlanta. Follow him on Twitter and Instagram at What Up Bob on Twitter, at It's Bob Whitfield on Instagram. He is, of course, Bob Whitfield. Give me something, man. Like you're a dude that I know will do this. Terrence was kind of shy about it. Give me a story, man, that if it existed today, like Antonio Brown had the Facebook Live situation that kind of bit him in the ass a little bit. But that stuff went around in '98. But we've talked a little bit even during this interview about the characters that you guys had on that team. So I know some stuff went down. You don't have to name no names, but give me the story that you can tell me that not a lot of people know about that happened during that Super Bowl run. Something good.
Well, I think the biggest story were the depth of the camaraderie that people didn't know about. So
see, he said the same
you start
thing.
Talking the Chris Chandler and the Bobby Christians and the Cornelius Bennett, the Jesse Tuggles, the young Keith Brookings, OJs, Jamals. We all came together, whether it was my house or whether it was Eugene's house. You know what I'm saying? All came, all the different styles of players, backgrounds of players, where we doing karaoke, so it's rap music 1 second, country music the next. That was a family unit. We was in it together. We was brothers in it together. Wives come together, kids running together. So the bond and the closeness and the proximity and the trust was so great. So Bobby Christian, he was the fullback, amazing fullback, hit everybody. So Bobby Christian, nobody knew he used to go home after practice and really practice his guitar. So he was waiting for this moment that he was going to debut his guitar and his song.
He wasn't that dude, was he? Like the dude that just like gather around and start strumming on his joint. I mean, his guitar.
Hey, man, I thought it was. I was like, what's his name? John Denver? What the hell? Man, get out of here with that guitar, man. I tried to smash the guitar and bust it. Get the man, the kids and everybody that ran off. Man, you done killed the party, Bobby.
Damn. See, yeah, man, you dudes was down here at you were here in the height of Atlanta. You know what I mean? The Too Legit to Quit and all that was going on. We still had, was Club Nicky still around in 98, Bob?
Man, it's Club Magic City. I don't know if it's, but I was there when Nicky was hot.
Yeah, and, man.
Magic City, then Deion Sanders, Too Legit to Quit with Hammer. And, we was running a different offensive scheme, run and shoot, so we was a high scoring bunch, throwing the ball all over the place, trying to put up numbers.
That's when it was fun, man. It was a lot of fun down
I think
there.
it's still fun now. I think the difference is how the fun is because of the social media and all that, where now you can realize fun without even leaving your damn couch. You clicking on social media, doing live Snapchats, live Facebooks, people sending hearts and direct messages, hit me on the DM, you know what I'm saying, and going down in the DM, whatever. It's all of that on social media so that the star effect of the talent, how we had it in 98, was we directly touched the audience, the fans. We were the first to get there, so they was lined up at the airport. We hugging, kissing babies coming off the plane through Hartsfield Jackson Airport. It wasn't even Jackson over there. It was just Hartsfield Airport.
Atlanta, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we was coming off kissing babies like that. So, it was real pictures, Polaroid shots, popping out the camera still. No, there was cameras in front.
Was it in 98? Or did we still have the disposables? Because I got a disposable around here somewhere that never got developed.
What? It was like, actually, no, because I remember when we went to Tokyo the next year was, I think when we got the first camera and the phone we bought in Tokyo.
Well, yeah, they always had
was
us
the
anyway.
next year that cameras came in phone.
Yeah. I got a couple last questions for you. I didn't even realize until just today, thinking about it, because we talked about you going to Stanford and your son going to Stanford back on the Sports King show, but I didn't realize to the day that your coach was Dennis Green, man. And I'm glad that I'm getting a chance to talk to you now, in light of his passing last year. But there was something I was talking about on the show, like after it happened, how they had kind of reduced my man to that one rant after the Bears game, whatever, crown them. If you want to crown them, crown their ass and all that. But I felt like he was just so much more than that. So everybody that I have on the show that had any type of relationship or had ever touched him, I always kind of asked him to give me a Dennis Green story, man. Give me a story of Dennis Green being a part of your life.
Well, I think that rant, what people saw in that commercial, and that commercial was classic. So Dennis Green does have the modern day social effect. Rest in peace, Denny. That commercial probably got more hits, more replays.
Right, it went viral before viral.
Yeah, it was classic, that rant. But that was the depth of Denny, meaning that he allowed us as players to grow as men. You know what I'm saying? I was coming in as a 17-year-old into college, and he said, "You're gonna start right away." First he said, "You're going to start at right tackle." After I whooped the defensive end over on that side, he said, "Well, just put him at left tackle. He can whoop him over there, too." I whooped him over there, too. So he's like, "Oh, you're going to go all the way." He knew I was going to be a pro.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like a father to me, a great mentor, a great man. And what it was that those rants came out based on what you put forth, because he was clear, concise, and what you needed to do to be successful and what he was willing to do for you to help you get to that level of success. So all you had to do was your share. So one of the things he used to do is ask you when you walk through the hallways and when you see him is like, "How'd that class go today? How'd that class go today?
Word.
How's that subject going today?" And one of the things I used to do, because I was like, "Ooh, I know I did not go to that class," I would sit there and lie to Coach.
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh, Coach, that class was great. That class was great.
Did he find you out?
Keep up the good work." Hell no, he didn't find out, because I was like, I already knew. I was like, there's no way he knew exactly what class was today. There's no way he knew I had a 9 o'clock class and I missed it. He just had to be throwing out a guess, And I'm going to call him on that game.
Right.
Yeah, I lied to coach. Yeah, it was great, coach. Man, the subject matter, woo, it's intense. It's a Stanford.
You're
Woo,
ridiculous.
woo, woo.
You're ridiculous.
Denny Green was a great coach and is a great mentor to me. He set me on my way in my professional career and in life. I love Coach to death, and he's always been a close member of my family. And it's sad to have him go, but he has inspired and instilled a lot in a lot of guys, a lot of players, and he turned a lot of young black boys into men.
Absolutely. Shout out to Dennis Green, man. Last thing I got for you, and I always appreciate your time, Bob. So at the beginning of the interview, you talked about reffing at in the high school level, and I remember I was coaching like little league, the little kids, and some of the guys who would come out on Saturday mornings to, help with the kids and whatever, they were refs too. So we'd be sitting around chopping it up and talking to them or whatever. And they have some stories, my man, about the things that went on the football field with some of these new age kids now. And then later on, you end up seeing YouTube clips of cats attacking the referees. These two dudes just in Texas jumping on the referee. Apparently they heard the N-word come out of his mouth. That's always the best go-to, by the way. Like anytime you do something foolish, like, wait a minute, he called me the N-word. Of course I cut his throat. You know what I mean? Like, that's always the go-to. But for you, like, has anything happened on the field? Because you're a couple of years older than me, so we grew up at a time where you ain't mess with the referees, but now these kids don't give a damn. Have you seen or heard anything on the field that make you kind of just take you back a little bit? Like, what the hell you say, young boy?
Well, I tell you, like, first let me give a little background. I officiate. I can't remember my position. I'm a line judge, so I'm on the sideline running with the play, getting the spot. So I'm always got a coach in my ear. So I'm always got coach confrontation, got to deal with players coming in and out the game. You know what I'm saying? I work with GFOAs, Georgia Football Officials Association, and we are always taking on new officials. So GFOA.cc is a website. You can go and find information. GFOA.cc, I think that's right. Yep, get some new information. But, it's a way to give back to football and a way to, help expand my knowledge of the game. So I find it profound because it's another part. We're the third team on the field. So I only had one major incident, and it happened actually this year. I'm in the game, and it's a team. It's like a playing game practically. So whoever wins this game goes to playoffs. So the team is whooping them. As I see the action going, one team clearly was dominating this other team. So, of course, the team that's getting dominated is always badgering the officials about anything. So it might be some ticky-tack calls where you might say, I could call holding because he had his hand on his jersey.
Right.
But if that guy with his hand on his jersey did not affect the play or alter the man in his path, whatever, that ain't holding. His hand is just on his jersey. He did not hold him or restrict him from going. But on that sideline, they're going to be yelling.
It's holding, right.
They're going to be. So this coach was yelling and screaming the whole game. So we get down to about the late third, early fourth quarter, and some action goes on the sideline. And the way the action went, two things occurred. So I shifted my focus to one, and the action over there was a little bit greater. So I should have repositioned myself, and I could have probably got both bits of action. But since I didn't, I only caught the main part of this action and missed something that happened over there. My bad. But the dude is irate, because now he like, this kid over here doing this, they doing that, woo, 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 and you ain't trying to call nothing. You just trying to be out here for the money.
Oh. Uh-oh.
Ooh.
Uh-oh. So apparently he just thinks you're like some regular ref then, huh?
Ooh, he hit the store. He hit it. If you ever wanted to see a ref knock out a coach, that's one of the ways you can get knocked out. About a $90 job. I'm over here got to dodge kids, hurl, risking life and limb. And you got people chasing you, might chase you out of the damn stadium if you make a call, whatever, and you're going to be like, I'm here for the money.
That's ridiculous.
I told him, you better watch your neck. You better watch your mouth.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy, dude. That's like, dog, I've seen it before, and I've been up and close and seen it, and I'm like, and like I say, the dudes that used to help us out at the park would have these stories, and I'm like, man, you guys are better men than me, and Bob, you're a better man than me. I'll give you that one too, dog. You're a better man than me.
Well, because here's the thing, I'll put it out there for any dad. I don't do youth football because it'll be even worse.
Yeah, parents,
But
those
in
parents
high
are
school
wild.
football, any parent, any coach, anybody got love for their team, and they just feel that for whatever happened on the field today, that the officials lost in the game, and you want to confront Bob, the official, after the game, I am not an easy win.
Please believe it. Please believe it. My man, good catching up with you, man. Thank you for your time tonight, Bob, man.
For sure. Anytime.
All right, have a good one, dog.
All right, bro. Later.
Oh, man. Check him out on Twitter at What Up Bob and on Instagram at It's Bob Whitfield. That's my man. He's a crazy MFer too, man. Also, man, the website that he gave for you guys and girls who may think about doing some reffing or whatnot, it was gfoa.com or gfoa.cc if you guys are looking to do some refereeing.
Wow, that was
The best of One Mic with Big Mike.